Art is and it isn't, and now everyone knows. That's quite a slippery thought from the artist Bob Camblin.
It really
It
is.
sort of makes you stop and think about your own relationship with art, doesn't it?
Right.
Or just understanding anything complex, really.
Exactly. It feels like he's capturing that very shifting nature of understanding,
Yeah.
this feeling that art, maybe knowledge itself, isn't ever really fixed. It's always moving.
Well, today on the Deep Dive, we're venturing into that world, the artistic journey, and frankly, the fascinating mind of Bob Camblin.
Yeah.
We're focusing particularly on 1989 as a kind of revealing snapshot.
Right. And the materials you shared are fantastic for this. We've got exhibition records, some contemporary news articles, blog posts looking back.
And crucially, quotes and sketchbook notes directly from Camblin. Those are gold.
Absolutely. So the idea isn't just to lay out, the biography of 89.
Yeah.
We want to really get into his thinking, trace how his ideas about art, life, perception, how they were developing. 1989 seems like a really pivotal point for understanding his wider philosophy.
So our mission today is basically to unpack the key themes, the insights that jump out from all this stuff, the 1989 activity, and Camblin's own words.
Yeah, hoping to find some of those maybe unexpected links and those aha moments that make things clearer.
Okay, let's dive in then. So 1989. On a purely practical level, it looks like a year of pretty big change for him.
Oh, absolutely. The biggest, most obvious one was the move. He and his wife, Nancy, relocated from Houston.
All the way to the Pacific coast, settling in Yachts, Oregon eventually.
Right. And there's that lovely detail about finding the place right on Highway 101 with 5 miles of totally unimpeded beach.
Wow. You have to wonder, don't you, how that shift from Texas heat to the Oregon coast started influencing his work, even while he was still showing back in Houston.
That's a great question. The environment must have had some impact, consciously or not.
And it wasn't just them moving, it sounds like a family affair. His mother, Viva, visited, and his son, Brian, and his wife, Chris, came out, and they actually ended up buying a house in Waldport nearby.
And Camblin and Nancy helped with the mortgage for a room, acting kind of like landlords.
Interesting. It suggests maybe a strong sense of family connection, community, responsibility even.
Definitely paints a picture of support, yeah. And Yachts wasn't some isolated place for them either.
No.
The records show lots of visitors. Mary Lice, Nancy's sisters, her brother-in-law, even that group from Little Egypt Enterprises from Houston.
Ah, Little Egypt. We'll definitely come back to them.
Yeah, important connection there.
And Nancy Giordano, his wife, she was working too, right? At Whistler's workshop in Yachts.
That's right. So they were definitely integrating into the local scene.
But, and this is pretty remarkable, even living way out on the Oregon coast, he kept a really visible presence back in Houston.
He did, still showing work there.
What does that tell us? Living in one place, but your artistic life is still very active somewhere else. About his identity, maybe?
Yeah.
His connection to Texas?
It's a key point, I think. Houston clearly remained vital for him artistically, despite the distance.
So what was he showing?
Well, he had shows, or was in shows, at Art on the Rocks Gallery sometimes. We've got a few painting titles from then. To the Sea.
Okay, that makes sense given the move.
Right. Then Mezzanine, and one called Live and Do Not Have Feel.
Feel, F-E-A-L.
Yeah. Intriguing title. Hints at the range, Coastal influence, but also maybe something more abstract or philosophical.
And then there was that Little Egypt silent auction,
Yeah.
September, October time.
A fundraiser for them to buy their building.
And note says Camblin was the first artist Little Egypt printed after they moved to Houston.
Yeah, that really speaks volumes about how established and, valued he was in that specific Houston arts community.
Definitely a strong tie.
Then later in the year, November, December, he's in a group show at Diverse Works, The Artist's Eye, 14 collections.
Curated by Patricia Johnson. I saw a review mentioned a portrait Camblin did of Jim Love.
Was hanging in Jim Love's own studio, yeah.
That suggests more than just professional links, right? That's a personal connection with other Texas artists.
Absolutely. And then December, again, Messages from the South at Rice University's Sewell Art Gallery.
Right, he had 2 watercolor landscapes in that one.
And the Houston Chronicle review, Patricia Johnson again praised his masterful shifts of technique.
And that sense of connection, right? Not just abstract form, but living meaningful reality.
Exactly. That's high praise. It suggests he wasn't just painting what he saw, but getting at the feeling, the essence of the place.
Really capturing something deeper.
Yeah. And December was packed because he also contributed to this collaborative installation, Art Car Museum.
Oh, the outsider art. Texas version of a Mexican nacimiento. That sounds fascinating.
It does. A mixed media piece, lots of artists involved. Tamblin, Ray Balinskas, Tito Ramos.
And the whole outsider art angle is interesting.
Hmm.
Work made outside the mainstream, maybe.
Often, yeah. Self-taught artists, unique perspectives. And a blog post described this Nacimiento as representing a collection of artistic categories.
So Camblin, despite having gallery shows, wasn't afraid to step outside those kind of traditional art world boxes.
Precisely. It really blurs those lines between insider and outsider, showing he was open to different approaches, different communities.
And just to round off the year, he got included in Peter Hastings Falk's annual exhibition record for the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts.
Right. So, yeah, 1989, big move, big changes, but definitely a year of continued artistic work and recognition.
Okay, so that's the external picture. Lots happening. But what about internally? Let's get into his own words now. These quotes and observations, they feel like a direct line.
They really do.
This one jumped out at me. Fortunately, some things remain forever, or another 10 years, perhaps.
Yeah. There's that wonderful irony.
And a touch of melancholy, that sense of impermanence. He follows it up talking about lost cottonwood trees, fading songs.
It's like he's directly wrestling with time passing, not just saying things change, but holding up that human desire for permanence against the reality of, well, decay and loss.
Makes you wonder what he thought was permanent, if even forever only lasts 10 years.
Exactly. What really endures.
Then there's this incredibly rich one. Look into the atom, you get what you need. Look into magic, and you get what you need. Philosophy and art are in both. And he ends saying he'll stick with common sense for a perfectly average view so he can enjoy miracles from both science and magic.
This feels absolutely core to his thinking, doesn't it?
It really does.
He's rejecting those rigid walls between, the rationale and the intuitive. He seems to be looking for a more holistic way to understand things through his art.
Not choosing science or magic, but finding wonder in both.
Yeah. And it's interesting, he embraces the perfectly average view to do that. It's like finding the extraordinary right there in the ordinary.
That a much shorter thought. The sixth sense is to be, without a doubt, senza dubio, no doubt. Very direct.
It really emphasizes conviction, doesn't it? Trusting your intuition. Doubt can be such a creativity killer.
Right.
Camblin seems to be saying that getting to deeper insights means having a kind of unwavering belief in your own perceptions. Maybe that ties into his exploring outsider art, that confidence.
Could be. And his connection to nature comes through so strongly. Quotes like, find something in nature that completes you and then surrender.
Yeah, and the cosmos waves at me with tree leaves.
I love that image. It's not just looking at nature, it's like an active conversation.
Exactly. A reciprocal thing. Nature isn't just scenery, it's actively engaging with him. It suggests a real sense of belonging, being part of a bigger system.
It's fascinating how his view of art's purpose seems to evolve. He talks about moving from art for art's sake
It's a traditional idea.
to something more like art for life's sake, or art for my sake, or art for survival's sake. That feels more personal, more urgent.
I think so too. It probably reflects a deepening sense of what art actually does for us. Moving beyond just aesthetics to something essential for navigating life, finding meaning, maybe even just necessary for staying sane.
Yeah, makes sense. Some of his statements are just wonderfully paradoxical, like, when you think, don't act. When you act, don't think. And that really simple step off the train of thought.
They both point towards maybe the limits of pure reason in certain moments.
Right.
When you think, don't act, implies needing to be fully present in one mode or the other, thinking or doing without interference.
And step off the train of thought. Just stop the mental chatter. Get to a more direct experience.
Seems like it. Quieting the noise to actually perceive something clearly.
Then we get these pairs of contrasting ideas held in balance, like, in the balance, patience and yet, freedom again, and yet. In silence, the reality can be maintained.
Beautifully put.
Followed by balancing and being for and against. We missed the clouds, and for a moment regretted it. Then, as lightning, the mind ripped out in flashes of variations to reach the still pond. It's like he's constantly feeling these pulls in opposite directions.
It shows his very poetic way of capturing thoughts and feelings, doesn't it? The first one evokes this delicate balance where contradictions can just exist together in silence.
Okay.
The second is more dynamic, a flash of regret, then bang, a burst of creative insight, and then stillness again. He finds real meaning in these subtle shifts and tensions.
His ideas on communication are also pretty striking. If you argue, or if you agree, you may learn, but you do not communicate.
That really makes you pause, doesn't it? What is communication then?
Exactly. It challenges the whole idea that winning an argument or even just agreeing means you've truly connected.
He seems to suggest genuine communication is deeper, maybe just truly hearing someone else's view, even if you totally disagree.
Yeah. What does real understanding actually look like?
Good question.
And this one will resonate, I think, with anyone who feels creativity gets killed by too much analysis. We all are creative, but we lose our magic in understanding everything instead of knowing.
Oh, absolutely. That balance between analyzing and just intuitively knowing. Sometimes picking things apart just diminishes the wonder, the spark.
He values trusting that innate ability.
Seems so.
He even breaks down drawing into categories: action experiment, slow analytic, conceptual,
Yeah.
but emphasizes they're all nonverbal.
That shows how fundamental drawing was for him, right? As a way of exploring and expressing that goes beyond words. Different modes, but all rooted in that direct, visual, non-linguistic kind of thinking.
Then there's this idea of finding your own mystic switch, a personal truth, but one that isn't fixed.
Yeah, it acknowledges that truth or insight is fluid, subjective. What feels deeply true now might shift later. The mystic switch is like that internal click when you recognize your truth for this moment.
I like this one. Resist learning. Learn to fail. Learn to relax. Learn to feel. Learn how to really think.
It's almost a manifesto, isn't it?
Totally. And then, I didn't learn anything new, but I know a lot more now.
It's a fantastic critique of just, memorizing facts. He's pushing for learning through experience, through failure, through feeling, through a deeper kind of thinking.
And that last part, didn't learn anything new, but I know a lot more. That speaks to a real shift in perspective, right? Integrating knowledge differently.
Exactly. Deeper understanding, not just more data.
And this simple but profound thought: everyone is a mirror, and that is magic.
It points to how interconnected we are. Our interactions reflect parts of ourselves back at us, the good, the bad, the stuff we don't even see. The magic is in that exchange, the potential for self-discovery.
He makes an interesting distinction, too, between magic for power, which he doesn't like,
Right. Sees it negatively.
and magic for seeing, which he values. And he links intellectual seeing to one kind of art and this deeper magical seeing to a more life-affirming art. What is magical seeing?
It seems like he's contrasting trying to control the world versus being receptive to it. Magical seeing sounds like that deeper, more intuitive way of understanding, less analytical, more open to mystery, leading to art that's maybe more profound.
That connects back to resisting learning in favor of knowing.
I think so,
He also talks about the artist's balancing act,
Yeah.
developing technique, the pressure for novelty, even wanting anonymity sometimes.
Sounds like timeless artist struggles. Mastering your craft versus the demand to be constantly new and maybe just wanting some peace from the art world circus. That anonymity thought is telling.
And his critique of contemporary art becoming consumer art, focusing on shock and recognition, not contemplation. Concept maybe replacing skill. Does that still ring true, you think,
Yeah.
from his 1989 perspective?
Oh, I think those debates are definitely still happening. The tension between deeper engagement and immediate impact, how we value skill versus concept. It's an ongoing conversation in the art world for sure.
Then we get this absolutely unforgettable image. The ego as a goldfish's shit folded under the waving tail.
It's just so visceral and funny.
I mean, it's a picture, all right?
But it's also insightful, right? That idea of something kind of insignificant, maybe hidden, but persistently there, like those nagging little thoughts.
Yeah. Then he introduces the hologram idea that collective understanding brings clarity. How does that fit with his other thoughts on communication?
It feels like a positive vision, doesn't it? Counteracting the idea that argument doesn't lead to communication. The hologram suggests that putting all the individual perspectives together, synthesizing them, that's where real clarity emerges, not from one person being right.
A collective aha moment.
Kind of, yeah.
His thoughts on time are also quite deep, seeing the universe as finite or continuous, living in the past, present, and looking into the future all at once.
It shows he's grappling with really fundamental questions about reality, our experience of time. That nonlinear idea suggests a really rich, complex view of existence.
There's that brief mention of a Louis Sullivan anecdote, too, which seems a bit random at first. But he connects it to honor. It's these unexpected links that make his notes so interesting.
Exactly. Even small things can hold personal meaning in his larger framework. It probably served as a touchstone for him, a reminder of certain values.
He also includes quotes from others that clearly resonated with him. Like Shinichi Suzuki, a work of art is the expression of a man's whole personality, sensibility, and ability.
Yeah, that reinforces the idea that art isn't just technical skill, it's everything the artist is. Emotion, intellect, ability, all wrapped up together.
And Alan Watts on realizing our connection to everything in quiet solitude.
Echoes his own feelings about nature and interconnectedness. That deep understanding often comes when we quiet the noise.
William James. Belief creates the actual fact. That's a powerful one for an artist.
Huge implications, right? The power of conviction to shape reality. Believing in your vision can actually help bring it into being, give it impact.
And the Zen proverb, those who know don't tell, and those who tell don't know.
A classic reminder of language's limits, which Camblin seemed very aware of, especially talking about drawing being nonverbal. Some truths you just have to experience.
Henri Bergson's quote about intuition, a faculty beyond intellect, reinforces that theme running through Camblin's own thoughts.
Definitely supports the idea that logic isn't the only way to know things. Intuition is vital.
Carl Jung gets quoted a few times. First, all the works of man have their origin in creative fantasy, a great defense of imagination.
Places imagination right at the core of human creation. It's fundamental.
And Jung, again, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves.
That's a powerful tool for self-reflection, isn't it? Our reactions are mirrors.
Not just for artists, for anyone.
For sure.
Jung on the play instinct. The creative mind plays with the objects it loves. That feels so freeing. Takes the pressure off art being serious work.
Emphasizes the joy, the curiosity, art as playful exploration.
And another Jung distinction, needing a reason for a hypothesis, not just blind belief. Back to that balance between